Hi everyone, Christina here for Card Player TV, back for another edition of the Poker Buzz. Last night, the latest World Series of Poker main event episode premiered on ESPN. The final 18 players played down to the November 9. One of the biggest hands of the night was the elimination of Billy Kopp, and we've got him on the phone to talk about it. Hi Billy, how are you?
Great, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing wonderful. So are you home back in Kentucky?
I'm currently in Kentucky. I leave tomorrow to head up to Foxwoods.
Oh, okay, you're going to play in the WPT tournament?
Right.
Now, didn't you recently move to Vegas?
I just bought a place. I'm actually in the process of closing on it right now. I move at the end of the month.
Well, congratulations. Now,
Thank you very much.
Of course, the World Series of Poker main event, the last recorded episode, premiered last night, and we want to talk to you a little bit about your experience and kind of watching your stuff on ESPN. Now, the first time you really got some airtime was last week. Did you do anything? Actually, 2 weeks ago. So how was that, seeing yourself on TV?
It's pretty exciting. About a year ago, I would have never thought that I'd be watching myself on TV. It's a little strange hearing yourself talk, but it's been a great experience so far.
Absolutely. Well, the big hand, of course, that we wanted to talk about is your elimination hand. You've had a few months to kind of think about it and, of course, talk with your friends, your other poker-playing friends. But is it okay if we discuss that hand real quick?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Now, leading up to this hand, you guys were playing shorthanded, playing down to the final 9. What sort of read did you have on Darvin Moon?
Unfortunately, he was about the only player that I'd play with at this point where I did not have a read on him. He'd pretty much just gotten to my table, and we played for maybe about a half hour, and I had really no specific reads at all.
What was your first impression of him? Did he seem like an experienced player or more of a novice?
Like I said, I didn't get to play a whole lot of hands against him. I've heard that he was more of a novice player and just kind of got into the game. But from my personal experiences, I didn't really have any opinion on him at all.
Okay. So when this hand came up, you're in an early position, you raise with 5-3 of diamonds, and he calls you out of the small blind with Queen Jack of diamonds. Now, when you raised an early position and he just called, what are you kind of thinking here and his hand range?
Right. With my stack, I've been playing pretty loose aggressive. I believe the table is a little bit short-handed. And I'm very comfortable playing post-flop, so I'm comfortable raising pretty much any two cards, pre-flop. And if I can play post-flop against my opponents, well, I feel like I have an edge, and this is what I was doing here. And the flop came King, 9, Deuce, 3 diamonds, and I flopped the flush. He decided to check to me, and I let out for about $750,000, which is, a pretty standard continuation bet. And he just check-called at this point.
Why did you decide to go ahead and fast play your flush? Was it because it was a vulnerable one?
Yeah, exactly. And, I'm not looking to let him get there with, like, King Jack with the Jack of diamonds or some other hand where he might have Ace Rag with the Ace of diamonds and check call for the nut flush draw. And, I'd been playing very aggressive, like I said, and I'm sure he was aware of this from the little time that we played together, so I elected to play it this way.
What type of hand are you putting him on when he just calls the flop?
Like I said, I'm putting him on a hand like King Jack with like a Jack of diamonds, or maybe, any weak ace that has a diamond. He may even have, a hand like King 10, no diamond, where he might check call, with just a pair if he's not a very experienced player. I think there's a lot of hands that I do get value out of here for sure.
Okay. Now, the turn pairs the board. It's the 2 of hearts, and he checks to you again. And I read in an earlier interview that you weren't really concerned that he had a full house. Did you think that he would re-raise pre-flop with kings or 9s?
Right. I think pre-flop he would definitely re-raise with kings. If he's playing it tricky, I think he plays it differently on the flop. I don't think he's going to check call a set on a 3-diamond board because, like I said, I have a very loose aggressive image. I could be raising hands like 3-5 of diamonds where I already have a flush. And I just don't think he'd play it that way. And when the 2 comes off on the turn, it looks really bad for me from an inexperienced player because they figure that my 5-high flush is now garbage against a set. But because he's not check calling a set here the good majority of the time, the 2 is actually a better card for me because he has to fold all flushes that beat me, including the nut flush.
Okay. And you're talking about after he check raises you and then you go all in. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
And that's the reason why I elected to go all in, because if he has a better flush, it's going to get shown down. I have lots of fold equity where, I can get him off the best hand, and that's why I chose to shove all in at that point in time.
Do you think that had you done this against another opponent, maybe Phil Ivey or Jeff Shulman, or who's at the final table, maybe who's had more experience playing, you think this play, you would take the same line?
Exactly, and that was kind of one of my mistakes. The only player I didn't have a read on was Darvin Moon, and if I didn't think he was capable of folding a flush on a paired board at this stage in the tournament, I would have never played the hand this way. Against a more skilled opponent, I think they definitely fold even in the nut flush there, and that's why the line I take makes complete sense to shove on the turn when he check raises me, because I have to fold those hands that they also may be check raising, for what they think are value to get me to fold my hand. So if it was, I've talked to my friends and a lot of other players I respect about this, and definitely if he was a player of a different caliber, he'd probably be capable of folding the, queen jack of diamonds there.
Absolutely, and a lot of the feedback that you've gotten from people who've watched it has been negative, saying that they didn't understand why you would go all in, because I think a lot of people misunderstood it and thought that you may have been doing it for value or to protect your hand. So they kind of didn't get the whole psychology behind you folding out a better flush. Do you think that's an accurate assessment?
Right, yeah. To clear it up, I basically turn what is a pretty decent hand into a bluff on the turn. By shoving on the turn, I do not want to call. I'm not, shoving for value there. I'm turning my hand into a bluff to get better hands to fold.
Now, when you bet $2 million on the turn and he raised to $6 million, did you ever think about just calling there, maybe playing it a little safer?
To be honest, that was my first inclination. I thought the probability of him flopping a flush shorthanded, as well as myself, I didn't think it was very likely. But then when I got to thinking that if he does have a better flush and it gets shown down, I'm going to be left with virtually zero chips, and he has to fold the good majority of the time. He should be folding, all flushes there on the pair board when I shove all in with 12 players to go in the main event. So I stick by my play, and I think it was the best play at that point in time.
So no regrets?
Nope, no regrets at all.
What do you think that Darvin Moon's chances are as the big chip leader going into the November 9?
I think he'll do all right. Like I said, I don't want to discredit the guy. I didn't really get to see him play a whole lot, and I wish him the best. He's got about half the chips or something like that in play, and I wish him the best.
So what has life been like since your hugely amazing accomplishment at the World Series of Poker main event? Have things changed?
Yeah, for the time being. I'm not going back to school, and I got a great deal with Ultimate Bet, and I'm going to be traveling around playing the circuit and, just getting a lot more, live tournaments under my belt, trying to chase that first victory.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Billy.
No problem. Thank you.
The World Series of Poker November 9 will reconvene this Saturday and play out, and the final episode will air on ESPN on November 10th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Christy Arnett for Card Player TV.